Welcome to a special mini episode of the Outlaws Outpost. We're here to talk about all the games that happened this weekend. Normally we air in a 2-week window, but there was too much that happened this week that we need to go over. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves, starting with you, Noob.
Hi, Noobutron, aka Joe. This is me.
Tuna?
I'm Tuna, the tutorial. Hello!
And last but certainly not least, our guest on our panel this week, Miss Cree Rex from the Lone Star Vanguard. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name's Cree. I'm here to help spread my knowledge.
I'm hoping you're going to bring some professionalism to our show. And of course, I'm James Binjusara.
Lord knows we need it.
So this is a one-off. This is a mini episode. This isn't meant to be in the same format that we normally do. Normally everything's scripted, and I have a very tight control over each and every one of you, which means all bets are off today. But
like the Overwatch League, scripted.
We had to talk about what happened this week because we are all Outlaws fans, obviously. And I want to say, no matter what happened, I don't think any of us went into this weekend expecting what happened.
No.
You nailed that on the head perfectly.
Like we could all reasonably say, sure, we could probably take Dallas, right?
Right.
We're like, I'm comfortable.
I could say that out loud, sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking
But,
we'd go in 1-1 into the.
Yeah, I think it's in the in the previous episode when we spoke with with Jesse. We mentioned how we're like I mentioned I was scared of it. I was a little scared of Dallas. Obviously that came before
the news.
the Eggsy
Eggsy
being
leaving.
released, and even without Eggsy, we knew they're going to be a tough team to beat. But we were able to pull it off.
He retired, so
Right.
he wasn't released. Yeah.
True. Sorry, that's my apologies.
And he's down to come back, he said,
Right.
Yeah.
if he can get healthy.
But yeah, that win against Shock though. That one, I don't think anyone really saw coming.
So it was the hammer heard around the world, right?
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
The final one.
Yes.
I was sitting at a bar with a couple of members of the LSV, and it's at map 6, right? Like we had gotten through map 5, like we're going into map 6. We'd all kind of been sitting around discussing. We're all decked out in our Outlaws gear, and we're like, look, no matter what happens, we've all had a good time. We've had some drinks together. We've had brunch. This is great. We'd love for them to win, but like realistically, what are the chances? Not that we were like doubting, but like when you look at the raw numbers, right? And you just go, it's got to be Shock. Everybody said it's got to be Shock, and yet, it had to be Shock so much that the Watch Point memed us before the match, and we're like, oh yeah, we're calling the whole thing for Houston. Yeah, Houston's totally gonna win this.
Danny
and we're
the
like,
Prophet.
right, and we're like, yeah, sure, yeah. Look, Watch Point's agreeing with us. Yeah, we're totally gonna do this. And then the first map happened, and we went, wait a minute, this could happen.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, map 1 with Hydration coming in, which is his first appearance of the season, right?
Back on DPS too.
Back on DPS, right? We'd popping off on the Doomfist
in May.
Yeah,
was
huge. And then then we were kind of brought back down to reality a little bit on Blizzard World. We're like, okay, we pissed off the Giants, right? We pissed off the champions. And then of course, we had a dominant performance with when we saw Jake back in a support role, no less. Seeing him on the Brig, which is awesome. I loved the fact that his positioning on Brig was a lot less aggressive than it was with Goats.
That was Dorado.
Yes,
let's talk about Dorado for a second, because Dorado was an absolute shutdown.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Like anybody who's played Overwatch, like if I say like how hard does it take the first point on Dorado? Most people are gonna be like, pretty easy. Like, not gonna lie.
Sometimes depending on who you're playing against.
It can be challenging, right?
Right.
But for the most part, first point Dorado favors the offense.
Usually it's like.
Yeah, it's typically the third point with all the 390s at the end that really slows you down. But
right, because that favors the defense the entire way around.
100%.
Whereas Dorado point A favors the offense, and the Outlaws just like didn't let them breathe.
it was surprising. Yeah, I mean, our defense, our it was that very very fast, quick get in get out assassination style of gameplay that really played into the Outlaws' hands. Right, there was a great play when Shock were pushing underneath the archway. Right, you had Jake and you had Crimzo on the Zen. Out in the back stairs towards the point, kind of almost baiting, the DPS players for the Shock to kind of like fully commit and force their way to try to force an engagement. And with Jake on the brig, obviously forced it, read that like a book, was able to turn around, shield bash, headshot from Crenzo, and just there's no, at that point it just Shock had no answer, and it was just It was a lot of fun to see. It was a lot of fun
to see, and it had to be frustrating with Shock, right? I mean, you saw how frustrated they were getting, like at the end of each round, and it was almost like, how is this even happening, right? There's this whole mentality of like, this is the Outlaws, this is low stock, right? Like these guys were rated like 17th in the power rankings, and all of a sudden they've come out swinging like this. It was something that I tweeted kind of shortly afterwards, and I had a little bit of an inflated ego as an Outlaws fan about the whole thing. But what I basically said was, what happened here today, and I wasn't trying to be over dramatic, will fundamentally rock the core of the Overwatch League, because everybody coming into this season doubted the Outlaws, doubted what they were capable of. They made their performance reviews based on the last 3 seasons, in which we've had a fairly consistent roster for the last 3 seasons, not the brand new roster we have now. And now we just showed up and metaphorically put our junk on the table and said, here it is.
You know what just makes me smile is Uber going, oh my God! I don't think I've ever heard him lose control like that before.
Oh no, he has. He's plenty of times. He's just one of those people that when something big happens, he just.
I think he was genuinely shocked. I think I was genuinely shocked. I think everyone was shocked.
Who wasn't shocked? That shatter.
The Outlaws were the only people who weren't shocked.
Felt
no pun intended.
Calm, cool, and collected the whole time. They're like, yeah, this is exactly what we had planned out. Here we
go.
Like,
okay, so when they pushed it, like, they didn't get past point A on Havana, I was like, you know what? This was a great day. This is gonna, we're gonna lose.
Competitive.
If you can't push it past point
to a
A
map
on Havana,
6, right?
Yeah. If you can't push it past that against Shock, you're done. And we won, and I was just like, and I couldn't believe it.
I turned away.
I
went to grab my drink or something. Then I looked up and we won.
Yeah, so
I still can't believe it.
It's interesting. Funny that you mentioned that, because Kree and I were in the Discord. We were in the LSP Discord, and we were having the watch party there. We were watching the game unfold, and at halftime, everybody was like, "I can't believe we're gonna beat Shock." And I remember I distinctly, I very distinctly said, I was like, "Guys, it's still a Shock. Like, this has happened to them. They've been in this situation plenty of times before, just like the Outlaws have been in this situation plenty of times before." Where they're up, and they get reverse swept. And I know that it's a new team, so it's not the same players. But just to kind of put that into perspective, right? You have a championship team, right? That has been a situation. You can just imagine they're licking their chops, knowing, okay, we stopped them at point A. Getting to point A is going to be easy. They have all the momentum going forward, right? They have the experience for it, and you have 3 rookies on your starting lineup right now that are going up against the back-to-back champs. That, if they lose that game 5, it's a different team the rest of the season. And had they not been able to pull off that game 5 win against Dallas, they probably choked this game 6.
Oh, so, I don't think we would have gotten nearly as far as we did in the Shock game if we lost game 5 and the first series.
And honestly, this is shades of season 2 when the Outlaws went into game 5 in the opening season of the season against Atlanta Reign. We choked that and we lost that, and it carried momentum the rest of the season. Anytime it was a game 5, we lost it, we choked it. But now, having 3 rookies on your roster do that and be able to win 2 back-to-back game 5 and a game 6, this sets the tone for the rest of the season. Now they have that
Right.
Tom Brady effect of we can do it.
Sure. And I completely 100% agree with you. And this whole entire experience of this weekend has just had us super hyped. And I feel like just brought us together even closer than we already were as Outlaws fans. But there's a very important takeaway from here. And I think it comes from the man himself, Jake. When we won against Dallas, amongst all the multitude of congratulations Outlaws tweets that were out there, Jake stepped up and said, "We didn't win against Dallas. We survived." And I think that you can apply that same thought to what happened with the Shock.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
That-
we proved that we can beat them, but we really just survived them.
It was a survival match more than
Mhm.
definitely. I mean,
Slugfest.
Happy popped off. You know,
yeah.
he
Oh,
had
Happy.
his moments,
Oh,
but then yeah, makes me happy.
Peru.
But yeah, no, Happy popped off. But like, I saw a tweet from Slideshow after the games were over, and he goes, "Happy deserves to be MVP. You know, man's nutty. You know, getting all those kills." But he mentioned he was most impressed this weekend by Janggu.
Oh,
Janggu
yes.
went head to head
Mm.
against Fearless, who was Shanghai Dragons' previous main tank, who was the APAC finalist last year and went to the finals. And then you had both Smurf and Super, who won the finals of season 2. So you went up against 2 finalists of main tanks who have carried their team to victory over and over again. And it wasn't just the Winston, and it wasn't just the Reinhardt. He outplayed both main tanks several times in both roles.
And that hits me right in my tank playing heart.
Right.
His obviously I've said in the previous seasons of the podcast, you know, following Moom is one of the reasons that encouraged me to get into Reinhardt and playing Reinhardt. And I was, you know, I wanted to know what our new main tanks were going to bring to the table, and this weekend showed me, and I'm like, oh well, I still love our main tanks. Like, our main tank lineup is amazing. I will follow them to the ends of the earth at this point. The plays that they made were so intelligently thought out. I want to harken back to the preseason show with Tuna, when I asked him about the new and upcoming players, and to educate all of us. He said the main thing that you need to know is that we have these tanks that have been working, you know, together for as long as they have, and that's going to be the thing to watch.
We really
And you-
saw it.
And you were absolutely right. We absolutely saw that.
Yeah.
And you know, and to build onto that, you know, they mentioned on broadcast that whenever the Shock were scrimming to get ready for the finals, they scrimmed a lot against Janggu and against Piggy, and he had actually complimented and had them in high remarks, held them in high regard because of how well that they played them. So,
Are you talking about when they were back on Town Esports?
back when they were screaming last season to go up against Shanghai, they were screaming a lot against.
Yeah, so they were on Talent Esports.
Right, they were
yeah,
Talent
yeah.
Esports. Yeah.
Back in when they were on their contenders team, so
So-
before they got picked up.
I mean, yeah, that just kind of goes to show that, you know, these guys. I mean, these guys are learning and they're evolving, and I mean, they're only going to get better.
And you know what? This was only their debut.
Yep.
And I know, so we're Outlaws fans, so we're biased, but like hands down, the match of the opening week was Outlaws and Shock, and without any biases, you like 100% match of the week.
Right.
It was the biggest match.
Kotaku wrote an article literally hours before we started recording this saying, like, I am so much more invested in the Overwatch League than I have been in years, and it was because of the Outlaws Shock match. And in that, they like straight up said, like, here's the Shock, 2-time champions, best of the best, and then there's the Outlaws, literally the worst in the league, and
Historically.
and
I'll
the
read
Outlaws.
I'll read the quote for you.
Okay.
2-time Overwatch League champions, the San Francisco Shock, played the no-time Overwatch League Nothings Houston Outlaws on Sunday. Traditionally, this is a one-sided match. The last 2 times these teams met, San Francisco beat Houston 3-0. But 2021 is a new year and new rosters, new coaches, and one returning veteran. have made the Outlaws one of the most exciting teams in the new season. Yes, I'm being serious.
And it's true. That's 100%
That's
true. I can't disagree with anything.
Though I would also like to throw back to season, was it 3 that was goats, or was it 2 that was goats?
I think it was
2 that was goats.
2. Yeah.
Where we
I
did.
thought 2 was
Shock.
dive.
That was
Well,
one.
no, I think it was 2 because that was the year.
Goats was 2.
Goats was 2.
Yeah.
Dive
Yeah.
was 1.
It is-
Double
uh,
Shield was kind of 3.
It was season 2, stage 3, I believe, is when we played up against Shock, and we shocked everyone by beating them then as well. It was another map 5 series, but we played Sombra goats into their goats and were able to take the victory against them. So I wonder if we're just also one of those like weak points for Shock, where it's like every so often we're just enough chaotic that they can't handle
Well,
it.
we have to ask the hard questions here, right? And one of the most disrespectful questions that we have to ask is, did they underprepare for us, right? Was the perception of who the Outlaws are, maybe they didn't prepare the way that they should going into this match, the way that they would,
Not. Dude, you have so much footage on all these guys. Juby is in contenders, or was,
Collegiate.
and Piggy, Jongu, contenders, Crimzo, Fuel, Happy, Charge, Dante. He was on the Shock. Like, how do they not prepare for this?
Well, I think they're referring to, or what he's referring to is like the team composition, and I can see how.
Sure.
Right, and I can see how maybe you
It's
see
a melting
this,
pot.
Yeah, you see this happen. I mean, you see this happen, right? They talk about it in previous seasons where it's kind of like, could it have been that the Shock were more concerned with Gladiators and didn't prepare as much for the Outlaws match? Which has happened. If you go back and look
Probably.
you go back and you kind of talk, but you review some of the interviews that they happened, and we're like, well, we prepared a lot more for this person rather or for this this team for
Yeah,
this.
but if you just won the championship, it comes off. That just comes. I know you're playing devil's advocate, but if you're a Shock fan and you're telling me, oh, we just didn't prepare for the Outlaws, no, that's such an excuse. Like, dude, we beat you. Like, we went the distance and we beat you.
So my question is here, to build off of that, right? If we're gonna measure them off, it was like, okay, no, we fairly did it, right? Then where does that put Gladiators? Because Gladiators were ranked up there right behind Shock, and they were supposed to be like the contenders to dethrone them, right?
Are they 1-1 or 0-2?
No, they're 0-2. They lost.
They're 0-2. They're sitting pretty at the bottom with
they have potential.
Several other teams.
They have potential,
but they were highly rated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we literally look at the preseason guesses that Watchpoint had prior to the first match between Houston and Dallas, which launched the whole Overwatch League season, and they were like, here's our top 5 teams, and it was like Shock and like Gladiators and like Dallas, and now the game has changed, right?
And the game will change. The game will change.
Oh, it absolutely will. Absolutely will.
I think Gladiators will be okay, but who knows?
I actually wasn't really impressed with their tank line. Watching them play, I don't know what it was. There's something about it that it never stood out and was like, wow, look, that's a good team. It was like they had a couple of good pop off moments, but when I was watching them, I just kind of felt like they weren't there.
So Korea, they lost to Shock and Dallas?
And Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Dallas. So
Dallas 3-1
it was a 4-way bracket, I guess, where we played Shock and Fuel, and then Gladiators played Fuel and Shock. So, and like that. And that's how it went with the Florida Mayhem, Vancouver Titans, Toronto, and Atlanta. They all played each other.
So how valuable are our scrim books now? Everyone always kind of puts them, throws, it's like, nah, scrim books don't matter, and I'm going to bring this up. I mean, I had been wanting to talk about it, but we had heard internally that the Outlaws had been popping off, but we refrained from mentioning it on any of the previous Outlaws outposts because we didn't want to, either create unnecessary hype or seem like we were leaking something. But I mean, at what point do scrim books start carrying more value?
Well, was it you that mentioned that they were playing up against some of the Korean teams prior to the Overwatch League Western teams scrimming? Was that
That wasn't
something
me,
that
but
was okay? I thought I read or heard or saw this somewhere that the Outlaws were scrimming with like Korean teams before. Don't quote me. This is not something I know for sure, but it actually shows in their play because we played a lot of rush comp with the Ryan Zaria, Lucio Bapp, May McCree, but we also played a lot of double bubble with Winston Zaria, Winston.
Which when I
Diva
saw that,
dive.
I get that I haven't been following contenders. When I first saw that comp come out, I'm sitting at the bar, like again with some LSV people, and I look at the comp and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And one of them actually went like, hey, like that's a contenders comp. Like you should be watching out for this. Like this can do some damage.
Well, they used it last year too, and it's a very Asian based comp because they were running it all through APAC, like even end of last season, early,
Right.
This
Question
season.
for y'all. So, like, what Overwatch character did we most rely on this weekend? Not player necessarily, but character.
right.
But I mean, it was so diverse.
If you had to pick one, I would
say Reinhardt because Reinhardt gave us the big shatters.
But here's the thing.
Bap?
We didn't play Reinhardt against Dallas either. We played mostly Winston against Dallas.
And I think it's a good thing that we can't really jump to a quick answer there. That's a really good thing to.
Yeah, I think so too.
I do love the current support pairings, right? You see a lot of Briggs Zen, Bap Lucio. I'm glad we're not seeing a ton of Moira. Personally, I just hate the skill orb that you could just like launch out for 8 million years and not.
Moira shouldn't be in Overwatch League. I mean,
I know that this is an easy go-to, but I do absolutely love Dante's Echo, which I felt really yielded some very important results, and not in the way that you normally think of Echo. Because normally when people play Echo, you think like, oh, they're playing Echo, they're going to clone the DPS and do like 5 high noons. Like that's not how like Dante played Echo this weekend.
Yeah.
He used Echo to like clone a Zarya and just like keep them in the grab and keep them in the grab. And, like,
that was a really good highlight.
Like that's such a smart, intelligent play.
His Zarya grab was sick.
Yeah, and then like that on top of like Happy's McCree. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I wonder. Obviously, if you get out to kind of go back on the question of who's the most important, I think it's going to fall down to map pool, which I don't think they've released exactly what the map pool will be yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Paris and Horizon are still out.
Okay.
And possibly Junkertown. But
that's
we played
for the best.
Because if you think about it, if Junkertown's going to be a prevalent map or the escort map, right, for next, then I mean you saw a ton of Orisa when people were playing Havana, right? I mean it seems to be like a very wide open meta, which is great. So I think, but I will say the tank you see more consistently had to have been Ryan, right? So maybe you're right. I think. I think whoever
do you
has
want to know the league usage most main tank hero?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this week?
Yeah, if you want to know.
Yeah.
Reinhardt is at 37.7%. Winston is at 37.5%.
Oh wow.
That's how close
that's exciting.
Wow.
Diva is the most used hero with 49.3% and Tracer with 46.9%. And then Brig's actually really high up there too.
We saw a lot of Brig.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see nearly as much as they had in the APAC region. I think she was more persistent.
Yeah, I feel like we saw a ton of Bap Lucio. Ton of Bap Lucio.
Yeah, Bap Lucio felt very strong.
Bap Lucio goes with the Reinhardt comps. So if you see Reinhardt, Zarya, or
that Jake Brig though. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
When it happened, we were all sitting around and they were picking comp. And we're like, okay, Jake's in support. He's obviously going to go Bap because he's been playing Bap a lot on his streams.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. And then just like, no, we're going to go with Brig. I'm like, are you sure?
It made sense at the end of the day. But it was shocking. It was shocking. I was like, Jake's coming in. I'm going to see him on DPS. And it's like, oh, he's on support. He's going to play Bap. And then he's playing Brig. Total shocking.
But I think
but
that
we won.
But I think that one of the things that this kind of all kind of rallies around, so to speak, is that as we talk about the comps that they use and the way that they communicate and the swaps that they made, like they swapped a lot between matches to almost tailor their team for the map that they were playing. I think that kind of says to us as Overwatch League fans, we can't go into any particular map making a prediction at this point. A year ago, 2 years ago, like, oh, it's King's Row. It's going to be these 6 players. They're going to be playing these 6 roles, and that's what they're going to be doing. Whereas here, this is a new and uncharted space for us.
Yeah,
it's so cool to go from the toilet bowl last year that went 7 maps and we lost to like the game of the week, first week, and we beat the reigning champs in 6. It's just such a turnaround, and it's really exciting.
Yep.
And I'm really happy.
It's a good feeling. It gives you hope for the rest of the season, and I like the diversity of the meta. There was not one, I mean, outside of May, McCree, mostly dominating. You also got to see a lot of Tracer, a lot of Echo, Sombra, like just whatever your team players are good at, you can pretty much use them, and they're viable in some way, shape, or form. Every hero except for Hog got played this weekend.
Are there any heroes that would get banned and cripple us, you think?
Well, as far as the tanks go, I don't think so, because we were able to show both comps of double bubble, rush, and I think our DPS, we have such a wide DPS pool that even if like McCree or May get banned, I'm sure Dante will gladly give up playing the May to go Tracer.
Yeah, they're not banning heroes this season, are they?
Stage 2.
Stage 2, oh boy.
So, and I think stage 4, I think it was the other one. They're doing it like every other stage or something like that.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
To be continued.
I do have to say, the nervousness for me is that because I've been an Outlaws fan since the beginning, there's this like excitement that also comes with anxiety. That's just like, I'm getting really hyped, but this could all come down in any given second.
I am cautiously optimistic.
Right.
Well, and imagine being like a Fusion fan. Like they look like they
did well.
Yeah, but I mean, 4 years later, like they've been looking like they could win the grand finals for 3 years in a row, and they have nothing to show for it.
Well, I mean, but their team's been good. So,
Same with NYXL. It's just like we're not the only team to feel like that.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
I feel like our highs have been really high and our lows have been like super low.
Our lows have been really low, man.
Like we've
really
been, like,
low.
That Shanghai low that happens sometimes.
It's been hard to get people to watch parties some games.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Well, I'd rather stay in,
I honestly think watch party attendance is going to be going up now.
Hopefully, yeah.
Watch party stonks on the increase.
The stonks are definitely on the rise for sure.
I know I've seen a lot of people come back to Overwatch just because the games were actually of interest this season or this weekend.
We had people like show up into the LSV Discord. It was just like, yeah, I kind of had tuned out for a while because the Outlaws were not great, and now they're good.
I think Jake coming back has a lot to do with that. I think the absence of Owl has a lot to do with that. I think like the pandemic, I mean, it's coming to a close from what I
we'll get there. We're getting close.
I hope we got in-person events like safely soon. I don't know, but
go get vaccinated, everyone.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go get your 5G chip.
Oh God.
I'm fully vaxxed. I have my I got my second Moderna shot 3 weeks ago, so it really helps. I was able to see my parents this weekend. They came into town. They're also fully vaxxed, so you're able to kind of like be around them. So that was.
You were able to hug another human being.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see. And yeah.
I have 2 shots. I'm still wearing a mask. This year's
been
pretty
for sure.
rough.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean that everyone else is vaccinated. You could still pass it along.
Yeah.
So here we are at the end of a weekend that kind of rocked us to our core. Like nobody finished watching that shot game and they were like, oh, I anticipated that happening.
Mm-mm.
No, never.
Danny
What-
Lim did.
What do we
Apparently.
think this means for the rest of the season? And Kree, I really want to start with your thoughts.
Well, okay, so like I said before, I'm cautiously optimistic. Jake mentioned it, we survived. That doesn't mean that we're not going to go into the next match and just, get outplayed by somebody else that knows what to expect from us. I mean, Happy was taking some flanks. I've noticed he likes to kind of break off and do his own thing, and now that teams know that he does that, he's going to get punished for it. So, it's going to see how well the coaches are able to like balance, uh, our play style versus what we do in the actual games versus what we want to do, going forth. So I mean, it'll just be a interesting like journey that I look forward to, and hopefully it'll be
Hopefully a good one.
a good one.
I gotta say, you knew that the Shock were scared when they pulled out some BS, put McCree on top of a doorway thing. Like I saw that, I'm like, there's like my response. It was, like when I saw that, I was like, they're scared of us. They wouldn't just like do something that cheesy unless they were scared of what we were going to do next.
That's definitely in one of those like plays that you're like, okay, we're gonna put this in our back pocket. We know it exists.
Yep.
And then when we need to make sure we win
Yeah.
this team fight and bring up our morale, we're gonna pull it out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Bastion on the chandelier. That's exactly what that is.
Never
Yep.
gonna happen again. Everyone's gonna be looking at.
Well, that was one of
looking
the
up,
best
make sure
plays in
there's no
Overwatch
McCree
history.
sitting up there.
Tuna, what does the Outlaws victory mean going forward?
So I'm looking at the schedule, and if I'm not mistaken, we have Spitfire and we have Paris Eternal, and then we go into the May Melee tournament. And if we can go 4-0 into that tournament, which I think at this point it's totally achievable, because I consider the scary teams out of the way. I know Kree thinks that we still have a tough road ahead of us.
I'm not gonna count them out.
Yeah, I think if we can go 4-0 and go deep into the May Melee, this year's going to be like really, really exciting. So it's going to come down to how we do in like the tournament and like the bracket and stuff. But unless this Shock game was a fluke, then like we have a exciting roadmap in front of us.
And
then we
I
just have to
don't
win
want to
two
like
games.
fluff our own ego about it, but I don't think it was a fluke. I think that it really did come
Yeah.
down to our coaches understanding our players, what their roles are, not only what their roles are, but what heroes they're strongest with and what maps they're strongest with, which is why we saw so much swapping out, because we knew like, all right, you're good with these heroes, which are good on this map. I mean, there was a whole progression to it that made logical sense as you watched it.
And if I had asked you all who was the most important hero this week, and you just immediately said Sombra, I would kind of think that Shock win was kind of a fluke because we abused Sombra, who Dante could abuse Sombra if he wanted. But he didn't. We didn't. I really don't think it was a fluke either. And honestly, like, Dallas it felt like a closer match.
It really did.
But Jake mentioned that. Jake mentioned that it was because Dallas runs comps that no one else does, and it's really hard to prepare against them.
Yeah.
Well, and then they just lost their hit scan player, so
Yeah,
now
they lost a
you know
big
less even more
role.
of what they're gonna run.
But I mean, if you go back and you watch the Shatter Herd Around the World, the one that ended the match against the Shock, that wasn't a random play. That wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to walk over here. Like, that was a methodical, thought out. The comms happened.
You think that was like a scripted play?
Like
I think
Of course.
it wasn't like the whole thing was scripted.
not scripted, okay,
But
but
no,
like
but I'm
you
saying
think he's like,
Overwatch
I'm gonna
had
go
already
around
written
the
it,
barrier?
like-
Our two tanks knew what to do.
Mhm.
Yes,
Or-
Diva bombed,
Right.
and
He
Ryan did
he
the
said,
left
I'm,
flank.
I'm going around to flank. I'm going to shatter. Get ready with bomb. And that was just a boom, 1-2.
And
And
Jongu was playing to win, not lose, and you could tell from that play, and that was big.
Yeah. Obviously, it was. I want to give the play of the game. was, I mean, not only because of the shatter, but the fight prior to that, when there was still about like 50 seconds left, Shock is pulling through. Crimzo drops his
Mortality field.
no. His
the
he drops window.
garage door.
Right, yeah. Call it window, right? He drops window.
Amplification matrix.
There you go. Fire strike from Django quickly kills Violet.
Yeah.
Violet, right? They have to reset. So now you run into the
point.
situation if that doesn't happen and the fight draws out, right? You force out some ultimates, they don't go your way. Now you find yourself in a situation where Shock have time to possibly get another engagement in, and now your cues are burnt out, right?
Well,
So-
Shock was so close to the end
Yeah.
that if we would have not picked off Violet that fight, and they had to go back, they probably might have won the fight and pushed in. We
Right.
just wouldn't been able to touch.
And so that forces both May ultimates to come out early. Django has to back away because of the May ultimate there. Time's winding down.
And the walls.
And the May walls. And then, that flank that... And it's a ballsy move if you think about it, because there's a high noon that's happening. But he says, I'm going for it anyway. The second he sees his high moon, instead of keeping that shield up, drops it, shatters, gets it with it. And it was just, I mean... That
shatter
play
killed somebody.
could have easily gone the other way if
It
he
wasn't
doesn't
like
get
a
that shatter
stun
off.
shatter. It was like someone died when that shatter came down. I don't
Yeah.
even remember who. But it just like slammed down and someone was gone. Someone
Yeah.
was just done.
He got 3 of the back line.
and the
squishy.
bomb was coming over.
It was, yeah.
And
It's
Uber's
beautiful.
freaking out. Oh,
But
unbelievable.
I think that it is not a stretch to say that it was probably one of the greatest Overwatch games for the Overwatch League I've ever watched.
It was
Like-
definitely
Yes,
a great
Atlanta-
start to the series.
Atlanta
or to,
Shock
the
was
season.
Atlanta and Shock was really good in the playoff bracket.
But it was a great week for Overwatch overall, and I know that we need to start kind of wrapping up here. But it wasn't just the Houston game that was great. I mean, many of the matches this week, nothing
Yeah.
was one-sided.
Chengdu versus Shanghai Dragons.
yeah, Chengdu 3-0'd him.
3-0'd. That's pretty one-sided, honestly.
That is
There
true.
were a
Let's
couple
be
one-sided
honest.
matches.
Um,
But it was good to have Al back.
Yep.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
I felt bad watching Vancouver because I'm like, Linkster, you always deserve better. This is rough.
But you know what? He won not all of them, but he won matches that he was playing in. So I
Yep.
mean, means he wasn't, struggling with any like internal demons that were keeping him from.
I'll be
performing
watching.
to
I mean,
his
we'll all
highest
be watching
ability.
him the rest of the season.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to give the panel one big question before we wrap up. And that is, what do the Outlaws, in your mind, need to do to keep this momentum going forward?
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
You have to stay hungry. You can't, for the younger guys, right? I mean, it's huge. We'll definitely ride the momentum. But man, you can't be like, okay, we beat Shock, we beat Dallas, the 2 harder teams, right? We'll be fine. You can't find yourself digging yourself out of graves all season long.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, Houston has an actual track record of being really good against hard teams,
Yeah.
and then going up against somebody like really weak and then just bombing.
Right.
Which
And mind
is
you,
why I'm worried.
right,
For
which
next
is
week.
It's a valid
But
concern.
But remember, it is a new team, right?
Absolutely.
But it's just it's just a kind of like a human reaction almost. It's almost like you just kind of relax a little too much. So hopefully which brings me back to this. Actually, now that I have recalling when Jake was in there, and after the first round of Dorado, when they held Shock, right? They cut over to his comms. And he says, "Guys, it's not over. Like, calm down. Like, we can easily get full held here. It's not over." So it's gonna fall on him to kind of keep everyone's head on a swivel and just kind of bring them down to earth and keep them there, right? I mean, so definitely like, hey, like Sunday tonight, dude, you better be celebrating, right? Like, I mean, Monday night, excuse me, like, but got to get back to work.
celebrate your victories after the weekend's over with, and then come Monday morning, back in the office, nothing happened.
Creed,
Go into it the same as you go every time.
do you have an answer to his question, or are you still thinking?
I would say the same thing. I would say just maintain your composure. Don't get overconfident. Don't. I mean, review your VODs. Look at maps like Volskaya where you had 5 ults going into the last point. You only need to capture 40%, and you blew them all.
That's
and
very
didn't
important.
capture anything.
That's
so,
more important than
mean,
anything else. Yeah.
You know, you could celebrate your victories like in the moment and then maybe the night afterwards, but keep composure.
How could we have won faster?
Yeah. You didn't 3-0 them.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you did 3-0 them, I'm sure the coaches could find some sort of mistakes that you've made in there. So keep listening to the coaches. Don't get, too overconfident.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah. Cocky is the word. You can be confident, just don't get cocky.
So I have a point. We need to protect Jongu. He was getting exposed a little bit, and it made me a little nervous. I know Muma's a great player, but I think a lot of teams in previous history would take him out, target him, and we'd crumble. And we kind of saw a little bit of that this weekend, which had me really nervous. But we fought back, and we prevented that from really giving us any losses. So if we can keep that up, protect Jongu, I think we're going to be really successful. But if we don't protect him and he goes down, we're going to see a lot of what we saw the last 3 seasons of Muma goes down and we crumble and we get boomed. So
and that's a very good point, because I remember distinctly in the previous league seasons, we could tell when a certain player was being targeted. It was either Muma or Raucus would be targeted. Like, well, Raucus is down again, and now here it goes.
Raucus liked to go on his flanks, though. Let's be honest.
That's true. But we didn't see that. I didn't see that out of these first 2 games. Nobody felt like they were out of position. Nobody felt like, oh, well, not Happy's down again.
I would say Happy was out of position probably more than anybody else.
It's calculated.
Did it pay off, though? Did it pay off?
Calculated.
Here's the thing. It's okay if you trade your DPS for their support or maybe 2 of their stuff. So, like, it worked out.
So do you think that was like
I think it's going to get punished.
Once people catch on?
High risk, high reward. I don't think he's going to be able to keep doing it going forth, because that's something you're going to watch the VODs of, and you're going to go, Happy's out of position. He likes to come from around this corner, so when we're on this map, make sure you're checking this corner supports, and then, Anna's going to throw a sleep dart. He's going to get slept, and then we're going to lose the fight because we don't have a DPS.
When you say it, I imagine Piggy coming over and, like, defense matrixing Happy's sleeping body.
Here's the thing. Nobody was around him. I tell you right now, go watch the VODs. Watch Happy in these fights. There was a couple times he traded his life for 2 of their lives because he's just that good. But he was over here and the team was over here, and no amount of Lucio speed boost, Diva boosters is going to get you into position to save him before the entire team collapses onto him.
And touching back to one more thing, is Bindi said that in the preseason discussion we had, Jongu, Piggy, their synergy was going to be something to look for. Another thing I said was pop-off potential from Happy. And we really saw that this week, and it was really exciting. It was super exciting. So that's another thing we'll have to look forward to this season.
But, I mean, like I said, he's going to pop off one way or another, hopefully. But yeah, I remember distinctly on Anubis against Shock, when he tried to do that whole flank he did up at the top, they were ready for it.
After that
That's going to happen more and more often now that players are, getting VODs and are knowing how we play. So you can't keep doing the same thing over again.
I don't want to have too much of an ego about this, but I feel like we only have seen the first couple pages of the Outlaws playbook.
No, I'm sure it is.
I don't think that we blew it all in the first 2 games.
No. We'll see.
between Junk Bunk and Harsha, I think we have two pretty calculative minds. They're smart guys. They know the game, and they're gonna
Exactly, and never discount the Jake.
Yeah.
True.
And
Well, I think that is everything that we have for our mini episode of
I know,
Outlaws.
right?
Yeah,
This was fun. This was really fun. I've had a
we could go
picture
3
of.
hours.
So honestly, like for almost all of this discussion, I've had a picture of the winning moment where they show the face cams where Dante's like, "Hell yeah," and like Django's like, "I'm so happy," and like Juby's like, "Yo!" When they beat Shock, it's if you can go back and watch the reactions, it's priceless.
there was when we were sitting at the bar and they had the actual picture up for quite a while of the watch point predicting the Outlaws to win. And they did that kind of between the scenes as they were getting ready for the next match. And I looked up and I was like, I feel like I've been looking at this picture for 5 hours and I love it.
Yeah.
So we framed it and put it on our desk.
It deserves to be at this point. One of the
This
best
was fun.
matches of the Overwatch League that I've ever seen, and I'm so hyped for our team this season. I think that
And I hope we actually recorded this because this was really nice.
this is so much more wholesome.
Still
This is
recording.
definitely not the first session we've done for this weekend.
Hey. Shh, 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 shh. Nobody knows that.
And that is everything we have for the Outlaws Outpost this week. We're going to do a full scripted episode probably around next Sunday-ish. We'll let you know when that's going to air, when it's going to air on Twitch. In the meantime, if you want to reach out to us, you can find us over at lsv.gg, where you can join our Discord, join in the discussion. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can send them over to info@thesurlynerd.com. We can read them on air. We'd be happy to. And until next week, heroes, good night and good game.
Bye,
GG,
everybody.
everyone. Oh, we're doing this. I got.
Ooh. Torbjorn!
I don't have any Overwatch stuff.
I'm still recording. LOL, I cut all of that. See you, nerds. Bye.